From the New York Times. Person infected with bird flu in Texas after contact with cattle. Here we go. It starts slowly. I remember when COVID first started, there were mutterings on Twitter about some mysterious illness in China, and people were collapsing in the street. YouTube would they wouldn't ban you, but they would demonetize anyone who dared talk about it. It was the weirdest thing. And then all of a sudden it came to the US. You had people like Nancy Pelosi saying, come on down to Chinatown. Everything's fine. You know, don't worry about anything. And it was just so weird. Now we're getting these crazy stories. It's not just bird flu. We've got this. Daily Herald, 53 cases of measles recorded in city and the suburbs. This is Chicago. Then you've got tuberculosis in Chicago. So we've got all these diseases popping up. Bird flu is the scary one because this has a 56% mortality rate. The New York Times reports at least one person in Texas has been diagnosed with bird flu after having contact with dairy cows presumed to be infected, state officials said on Monday. The announcement adds a worrying dimension to an outbreak that has affected millions of birds and sea mammals worldwide, and most recently cows in the U.S. So far, there are no signs the virus has evolved in ways that would help it spread more easily among people, federal officials said. Now, what we're hearing from a lot of people, there's almost, I wonder if people are panicking a bit too much. There are certainly concerns about lockdowns. There have been concerns about lockdowns nonstop since campaign season started because Democrats need a way to beat Trump. Now, I don't know that lockdowns help them because Joe Biden's president, but there are certainly concerns they will try to do something. Even if the lockdown makes Biden look bad, is what I said on Twitter, and a bunch of conservatives got mad. I said, elections are not about convincing people of anything. Elections are about collecting as many pieces of paper as possible that won't be signature verified. So if they were to be able to lock things down, if this fear does, expand, and I got to be honest, a 56% mortality rate, certainly something scary, then it will be a lot easier for them to ballot harvest, collect ballots, and it'll be a lot harder to do due diligence and pushing back against that.
Well, I'll be the first to say I'm more concerned about a lockdown than a flu. That's for sure. I'm more concerned that some stupid government would destroy their country as an overreaction. That's what I'm more concerned about. So don't do that.
I'm certainly concerned, too, more so about the lockdown and anything. And Tim, I think you put it well. They're looking for a reason. They're looking for a way to help them beat Trump. They know they're trailing in the polls. It's obvious. Wall Street Journal came out with a new poll last night. Trump's beating Biden in like a drum in 6 of the 7 different swing states. And it's not close right now. Biden has disapproval ratings in the 60%. So it's not going to materially change over the next few months, barring the course that he's on. So they need something different.
Well, I think this is the mistake that conservatives are making, is this argument about how do we effectively convince people of things, right? So the big issue right now is abortion. Donald Trump goes to Grand Rapids and the media is like, he dodged the abortion issue for now. Well, he was talking about immigration and stuff like that. I see a lot of conservatives who are like, don't tell Democrats what you actually want to do with abortion because then they won't vote for you. And I'm like, Democrats aren't trying to convince anybody of anything. Democrats are just figuring out ways to count more pieces of paper. That's it. Does anybody actually think Joe Biden convinced people to vote for him in 2020? Democrats were ballot harvesting en masse, and it's illegal. And they did it in tons of places. They did it with the help of universal mail-in voting. They don't need to convince anybody of anything. Republicans can come out and say they want to give every American a chicken, and it wouldn't matter. Free chickens for everybody. It doesn't matter because all we have to do is go knock on a door. I'm like, the Democrats are going to go to Skid Row in LA, and they're going to be like, just sign it. And the homeless people are going to be like, whatever.
And it's like lifestyle in the cities and in the big cities and everywhere else are so different. Maybe the suburbs is a little bit more like the city, but in the country and in the city are almost like separate forms of governance are needed. And this has probably been a battle from the dawn of time about the central power in the city, all the sprawling land around that's being absorbed, taken control of and taken advantage of. I'm sure they called them serfs at one point. They were like, let's figure out how to control these people better. Serfdom, we'll call it. You can't leave your land, but we'll make sure you don't get attacked. So it's stressful to try and balance this out because it's so easy to voter harvest in a city and get a bunch of people that don't want chickens, because you get a chicken in the city, you got to get rid of it immediately. It stinks. Well, there's no room for it.
Most cities have banned chickens.
And people out here need chickens, essentially want and need them to survive, to eat. Not necessarily, but some people, livestock is a big part of survival.
What is going on? Is there audio playing? Oh, there is audio playing of something.
Underneath what I was saying, it was like surging and getting bigger. Yeah, that's hot.
One of the things a lot of people are concerned about is that with the, they called a bunch of chickens. Now they're saying cows are sick. we may in a few months start seeing shortages of food. You might start seeing certain services get shut down. Everybody, not everybody, but there's all this crazy conspiracy chatter about the eclipse coming up as if the apocalypse is about to happen. That will be Timcast IRL episode 999, by the way.
Did someone point out it's 666 inverted? It's going to be crazy, man.
Jeez.
And then they said you were the Antichrist, but I think they were joking.
Me?
Yeah.
You?
Did Tim see that comment?
999.
And how would you handle seeing that comment? I don't know. It's just
Well, it's interesting that you guys mentioned about the...
Be sure you don't become the Antichrist. Sorry.
The food, that you talk about the food. We've heard the World Economic Forum cult talk about this global reset that we need to have with the food. We got to stop eating. We got to change the global food supply chain, moving away from beef, chicken, eggs, etc., moving towards plant-based, insect-based. We've seen China start buying up our farmland. This could provoke some questions of, could this affect our egg population? Could this skyrocket the process of eggs? And could this potentially expedite a process towards our food supply chain getting completely screwed up?
Part of me is concerned that everything we're paying attention to is the distraction. And whether Trump wins or doesn't win and fires people and does the thing we want to do, we are the chickens in the chicken coop while, you know, what do we have? We have the chicken tender go out in the back and then yell, all the chickens go run over, then the other person can come in and change everything out while no one's paying attention. So we're sitting here saying, like, Trump must win. We really believe that's the most important thing. I certainly think it's important, but I'm wondering if the World Economic Forum cult is just like, oh, that doesn't matter at all. We are going to cut supply chains. We're going to strangle them out. We're going to infect dairy cows. Who knows?
Well, it's funny because Louisiana today, just the Senate passed a bill saying that they are going to be, that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, United Nations, and the World Health Organization will have no jurisdiction or power within that state. So
yeah,
at least one state is declaring their independence from organizations like this. They're trying to monopolize power.
Wow. And why would they even feel like they... It's crazy that it's come to a point where they feel like they have to declare independence from a corporation or an unelected body.
Unelected international bureaucracy.
You are sovereign over them, just so you know. You're sovereign over yourself and your environment.
So they're making moves. You know, at least one state is.
I mentioned last night the powers that be. I used that phrase, and Tim, you were like, I don't know about that powers that be thing, because it is like we're controlling reality in a sense right now with 40,000 people listening. How many people are hearing this? Are like, if we're like, okay, you want to disrupt the financial system, command order. Like people would do that kind of thing. Like you can control society that way, not total control. So we are part of that power. That is. I'm just concerned that, like you're saying, behind the scenes, people are filing paperwork, moving things. They're disrupting trade routes. They're planning a transition into this new global corporate governance.
Like, I'll put it this way: do we care which rooster is elected to be the boss or whatever? So the chickens have a pecking order. The couple roosters are in there, and there's like, you know, a couple dozen girls, and then the roosters battle each other, and then one rooster asserts dominance, and then they break apart, right? And nobody here actually knows or cares. I mean, actually, we probably do know who's in charge. We think it's hilarious. You're so funny. We can do whatever we want. They can do nothing about it. Roberto can jump kick me when I walk in, and then I push him back, and it's meaningless to me. And so that's my concern when we're seeing stuff like this. We may be sitting here trying as hard as we can to push back against this machine, and they view us like livestock.
Sure. Well, we can do what we can control, and obviously these are really big questions, and I ask myself sometimes I got to take a step back. What can we control today? We can control working towards November 5th and getting Donald J. Trump back in that White House. That could be a first step towards taking down, as you called it, Ian, the powers that be and reshuffling that sort of pecking order in a sense, because these are all very big questions. We can start by pushing back on these fake narratives that the Biden campaign is pushing out and working towards getting that man back in office, because as he says, if he loses, I greatly question whether or not we will in fact have a country anymore. At least if he wins, we can start working towards that attainable goal.
I kind of feel like whether he wins or not, we will be in for some tumult, is one way to put it. If he wins, you're going to have blue states effectively in revolt. You're going to have international organizations and governments assisting those blue states in whatever way they can, depending on how serious things get. And if Trump loses, well, let's say Trump loses, and all the Trump supporters just go, well, gosh darn it, I guess we lose. Okay, Democrats, do whatever you want. Okay, then the country dissolves instantly. Then it's intentionally destroyed.
100%. Big questions.
But dissolves into what exactly? Like a civil war situation, or just...
No, I'm saying if Democrats win and we're just like, well, whatever, I guess, then the border disappears. Then crime is running rampant. It becomes Mad Max. It's gonna be Escape from New York. I mean, it almost already is.
Or a kind of sedated torture, like fascist sedation. People are just in their pods getting their $400 a week, you know, to eat and be still and silent.
The crazy thing is, these liberals and these leftists say things like, New York's fine. What do you? There's barely crime. And you watch a video of a dude getting stabbed, a person getting shot in the subway. What they don't realize is that everything that their argument is, you go out in Times Square. Do you see anything? People are walking around. They're fine. Like, well, women are getting punched in the face, like all over the place. Yeah, but that's not even happening that much. There was, I think it was the Breakfast Club or whatever. They were interviewing Mayor Adams, and the woman was like, cops barely get killed in this state. You're exaggerating this rare thing, and civilians are dying. Dude, even in war, you can walk outside and people are going grocery shopping. When the Syrian civil war was in full swing, there was the Damascus Tourism Board was promoting coming to their nightclubs. And I'm at Vice, and we were like, we should go. How wild would it be to be in a nightclub in Damascus while on the other side of the country, there's sarin gas attacks? And then we ultimately didn't do it. And then shortly after that, there was a sarin gas attack in Damascus, and we were like, wow, maybe you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But like, imagine walking outside in Damascus, cars are driving, people are going grocery shopping and being like, nothing's wrong.
Oh, yeah. You
Everything's
can't
fine.
take Times Square in the middle of the day is not the dangerous part of New York. I mean, there might be, maybe. Look for the dark alleys on like 67th Ave or on 67th Street and like 4th Avenue or whatever it's called. I think it's 4th Avenue.
It's funny, ever since these progressive left prosecutors who ran on getting Trump in New York got put into office since 2019, crime rates have skyrocketed. So they may say like, oh, murder may have dipped 1% from 2022 to 2023. But ever since 2019 to the end of 2023, murder's up 23% in New York. Robbery is up 27%. Felony assault is up 35%. Burglary is up 30%. And auto theft, guess how much, Tim? Guess how much, Ian? Guess how much, Chris? Nearly 200%.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.